These are all examples of a woven web, also called a woven circle or a spider web rose. And I've just made them in a variety of different threads and ribbons. So let's look at what you're going to need to get set up to make these. First, I've drawn something for the center of what's going to be the web, or the center of the circle, because I'm going to have to make a little framework like this. So you'll see that I have 5 spokes. You have to have an odd number of spokes. It can be 5 or 7, depending, even more than that if you're making something really large. And you can either draw the whole circle as I've done here, or just mark 5 equidistant knots. They don't have to, equidistant spots. They don't have to be 100% perfect. You can have a slightly lopsided flower if you want. So I'm just using a chenille needle, and this is a size 8 pearl cotton. I'm going to make the legs that are going to be the framework to support my weaving. I like to go from the outside of the circle in, because that puts my knot on the outside of the circle, and it's not in the center, because I'm going to have to come up near the center. But I've seen people do it the other way around. I think this makes a good, strong framework. Now, if I want to, I can weave the whole thing out of this size 8 pearl cotton. But if I'm going to make it out of something like a silk ribbon, as I've done here, I don't want to make the framework out of silk ribbon. That's just going to ruin my silk ribbon. It's not going to be a strong framework. So let's look at what happens when you have finished making these with your chenille needle and your, let's say in this case, a size 8. You could use a different pearl cotton. Oh, actually, I think this was a size 5 that I made the little legs for the framework. So now I've come up, not right in the center, but just outside the center, between 2 of the legs. And I have changed to a size 22 tapestry needle, because it doesn't have as pointy of an end. So it's not going to catch as readily as I go over and under. And by the way, the whole trick to this stitch is remembering just whether you're going over or under. So I just kind of say to myself, I'm going to go over. I always start with the over. I'm going to go over and under. And because in this example I'm doing it right-handed, I'm going to be going counterclockwise around. Over, under, over, under. And so you can see this is why you need to have an odd number of spokes, so that they alternate. You'll know if you've made a mistake and lost track of your over and under, because suddenly you'll look down and they're no longer alternating. And so you can see that's starting to form the little rose type shape. Now, if I think this looks really pretty in a variegated thread, but here I've done it in a silk thread that's a chunkier silk. As long as you can get it through the needle, you can make this. Now, of course, if I'm stitching left-handed, I'm going to go clockwise, but everything is the same. I'm just going over and under, etc. And I'm just going to go around the circle, over and under. I find these very pleasant and relaxing to make. I always liked making those construction paper placemats when I was in kindergarten, and I guess they didn't hold up really well as a placemat, but it didn't matter. I enjoyed making them. So when you get all the way around the circle, as I've done here, now I can just sink it down to the back, and you can see this made an especially nice texture, because this was a larger Treenway silk that had a lot of texture and was a little bit loosely woven. So you make sure in this instance, because I want it to look like a flower, I've made sure that I have completely covered all of the little legs of the spokes, and then I just find a place. You can't even notice where I ended it. It just tucks right down to the back. Now, another option you can do with this is something like what I've done with this star, where I've just done the weaving around a portion of the center. These are fly stitches with very long legs to them, very long tails, whatever you want to call them. And so that just gives a little bit of that decorative spiraling. You can use this, as I've done here, just abstractly to make circles, or you can use it to make a more rosy look, as I've done. This is another Trinware silk on this vine. I recommend you try this out in every single thread that you own.